All right, so I've been getting a lot of questions from people about what the Vipassana was like. So I figured I'd make a couple of videos that help explain it. This first one is just going to talk a little bit about the experience and maybe who I think it's for. And the next one, I'll talk about how it impacted me and what lessons I learned. So just a brief overview on what this was. It was like a 10-day silent meditation retreat. Actually, maybe even 11 or 12 because it's 11 nights, 12 days. 9 of them are silent, one of them you can talk, and then the coming and going day as well. So you're meditating there for basically 10 or 11 hour sessions worth of meditation, and then a couple hours per break, as well as like an hour of lessons that are going in there. You're eating purely vegetarian food. Actually, I found shockingly, I was thinking I was going to need a lot of food, and just doing a lot of like brain power would draw a lot of energy, but that wasn't the case at all. I'd have a really small breakfast, maybe like half a normal breakfast, like a regular sized lunch, and then in the afternoon you get like a snack, and I had like an apple and a kiwi, and so it was like and less than 2 meals a day, probably less than 1,000 calories, and I was perfectly fine on that. A little hungry sometimes, but nothing compared to everything else that was going on and focusing on. And so it was for the first 7.5 days that I was there. I thought it was nice and it was productive. I wasn't really having, like a massive life-changing impact. A lot of good things, a lot of thoughts, a lot of practice, getting better at meditating and kind of understanding and learning how my mind works. But it wasn't until that 8th day where I started really breaking down some major walls for me. So I very much get why it was such a long time, and that length certainly helped for me. In retrospect, I also learned some good shit while I was reflecting on everything after the event was over. So doing a little bit of journaling and kind of even just talking to people and making these videos really crystallized what impact that it had on me. I was surprised to find I didn't need much sleep while I was going through this. So your wake-up call is at 4 o'clock every day for a 4:30 starting meditation, which really meant like 4:20 I rolled out of bed, threw on some clothes, and walked over, and the cool air outside helped me connect with why I was there and waking me up a little bit. But I'd go to bed. Bedtime was 9:30, and it would take me a couple hours to get to sleep. So I was sleeping maybe 4 or 5 hours a night and really feeling fine. I was sleeping a lot during the day, so there's several like hour or two breaks that you get. And actually, a lot of those I needed to just rest, and it was resting my back and also just kind of resting my mind and being able to tune out. And like sometimes I even slept during that stuff, and so that really helped and showed that like the stuff came in chunks. So it's a weird and interesting sleeping pattern. Obviously, so there were some chairs available, and some people chose to sit with their back against the wall. I tried to just sit on the pillow, and that meant I was getting a crazy core and back workout. So it took a day or two coming back, and my back was still really fatigued. But I feel like my back is all the stronger for it, and part of the entire experience was actually being able to push through pain and realize that it's not nearly as bad as you think it will, and especially in the sense that it doesn't last. It, pain comes and goes. It's reminded me a lot of running the marathon. Like when at one point I'd be out there and running, and like everything would hurt, and I'm like, there's no way I can make it another 10 miles like this. But a mile down the road, everything would feel different, and it wouldn't hurt as bad. And that was exactly what this experience was like, or very, very similar. I was surprised how easy it was to give up cell phone, alcohol, meat, and go vegetarian. All of those things were way simpler just because everybody else was doing them. It was part of the situation, and I didn't really miss them at all. Same with giving up sleep or anything else. It was just simple because it was part of the community. It was what you knew you were getting into at the beginning. And I think it kind of shows how setting up the situation and shaping the path makes much more of a difference than willpower. If I had to choose not to look at my phone or make those choices every time, I'm sure it would have been much more difficult. The other thing I wanted to kind of mention is who would I think this would be best for? And so anybody that's willing to put in the effort and go through the challenge, because it's certainly going to be a challenge, is well, is certainly a good candidate for it, right? You're gonna come out with something on the other side. There's no doubt about it. There's a pretty good chance it'll be incredibly, incredibly impactful for you. It was for almost everyone I talked to that was there. Actually, everyone that I talked to at least said it was impactful in one way or another, and that was worth their time. Obviously, 10 days is a huge commitment, and it's going to be hard going through it. The outcome's likely worth it, but it's only going to be as valuable as the work that you're willing to put in. The bright side is that anyone can make it through this. If you've got just a little bit of resolve to say, hey, I'm going to just make it through this minute right here. Because although some pains or whatever you're going through at any given instant might feel like, hey, if this goes on for another 8 days or 5 days or whatever it is, there's no way I can make it, which might actually be true. The beauty is that it won't be like that, 5 minutes from now, 5 hours from now, whatever the time frame is, it's all going to change. Probably the most useful person or people to consider this is anybody that is really facing some difficulties and challenges that they are thinking they don't know how to cope with or overcome, or life is just seeming too challenging or too ridiculous. I think anybody that's gone through like major tragedy or something like that would really, really benefit from a little bit of time to step back, have some self-reflection, but more importantly, have a very, very clear path that's very understandable that actually sheds light on a lot of other learnings. So that leads me pretty well into my next video about learning, so I'll cut it here. But definitely write me or email me. If you've got any question, it's just travis.marsh@gmail.com. And always happy to talk about this more.